All right, we are live with Halftime Hits brought to you by Broadway Sports Media. You can follow us at Broadway TN. You can follow me at JB on Broad or my co-host of the Coach's Corner Pod, Ryan at Ryan on Broadway. Here to break down the first half of the Titans and Seahawks.
Do we
As you can
have to?
see at the bottom of the screen here, the Titans trail the Seahawks 24-9. As usual, we're going to go through and appreciate all of your reaction in the comments. We'll get to some of those, but also going to go offense, defense. Let's talk about the offense first here, Ryan. Tell me about what are some of the things that you're seeing, both good and bad.
So let's start with the good, because there has been some good. It's been the resurgence of Julio Jones. He's come to play, and if it weren't for 99% of his foot being inbounds and 1% of his foot being out of bounds, he would have a touchdown to his tally. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he had a really good day. And this is what you're expecting out of that big name when you go trade for him in the offseason and to come out, what you were expecting last week. So it really took Mike Vrabel's words to heart. He came out firing, so it's been good. Tannehill has looked good when he's had a chance. And that's about it. For good. And for bad, it's just saying the offensive line isn't in the same consistency we saw last year. And it's not the tackles. I haven't seen a bad play out of the tackles, Sambrello and Quessenberry I've of course I've been trying to watch them. They haven't been spectacular, like blowing people off the ball, but they've been doing their job. And that's really all you want out of the offensive line. It's been Saffold, Davis, and I'm not really sure Jones has been bad, but it's been the two guards have had some plays that have not been up to what their abilities tell me they are.
Yeah, the guards have not been as good, but overall, when you talk about just the offensive line, I don't think it has been as troublesome as people may have expected. The problem I have seen is when you're leaving tight ends matched up in one-on-one matchups on defensive ends, not even outside linebackers or corners blitzing or safeties blitzing and those kind of matchups. There are just matchup issues that they have created based on the play calling, and frankly, that may not be necessarily on Todd Downing. That could be on Tannehill needing to check into the right play. But ultimately, they have had bad matchups that the Seahawks have taken advantage of on offense. But ultimately, it comes down to they have got to capitalize on the opportunities that they have. And they have been in the red zone 3 separate times and come away with 9 points. You cannot do that and be
At least they have 9
winning
points.
Team.
Well, I mean, with Titans kickers we've seen in the past, very easily could have missed 2 of those 3. So it could be worse, I guess. I mean, but going to your point about the Swaim, and it was Brewer also let some late leakage go for that fumble. That's a short roll play action. And when I say short roll, what I mean there is there's not a whole lot of time. So Tannehill has to have that he needs to get wider with his roll, which may not be in the built in. So he just needs to know that he's got a tight end backing off his blind side back there, Swaim off a defensive end. It's a bad matchup, and he's got to have that knowledge to either check out of that or to be able to get his role a little farther to give himself some time. And at the same time, Swaim just doesn't get beat. I've seen him get beat on a bunch of plays today where he just gets walked into the backfield on run plays. Henry's showing some life on some of that, but the consistency that you're used to seeing from this offensive line, and it doesn't really, again, the tackles aren't the problem. So I don't want to hear about backups. It's other places that are letting the flow down for the running game.
Yeah, let's talk about, as we're talking about the offense. Look, everybody, it's relatively fresh in everybody's mind. Let's talk about the play, right? What did you think it was the right call, the bad call with Julio Jones coming down? He tapped it both feet in bounds, tapped the toe. What were your thoughts on that play?
Well, my thoughts when I saw the replay was his heel clearly comes out of bound. It was like and I made my joke. 99% of his foot was in bounds, 1% of his foot was out of bounds. And that rule, the way it's written, I don't know who your stand-in referee is for this game, but the way he explained it, when the toe initiates, then if it falls through. Here's the dumb part about that rule is that if Julio just taps his toe and then hops out of bound, it's a touchdown. So tell me why in physics and just common sense, why if his toe hits first, that wouldn't be a touchdown. Because to me, if you're telling me that it counts that he taps his toe in and then just jumps completely out of bounds, he's good. But no, because his foot comes down and only part of it, like, we're talking about maybe the back half of the back cleat comes out of bounds. I get the rule. And I get it's one of those dumb things too, where it initiates to the ground, that sometimes there has to be some common sense with some things. But unfortunately, with rules, much like in laws, you can't apply common sense. It has to be some steadfast things. So I don't agree with it, but I don't like it. Sorry, I don't like it. But I mean, the way it's written, yeah, it was out of bounds. Shouldn't be, but it has what it is.
Look, ultimately, I think it's a bad rule. I agree with that. The fact is, you saw that Julio Jones is even self-aware. It's ingrained in his mind that that is a bad rule, but that is the way that the rule is called. You can see the way that he tries to tap the toe and then pull his foot up.
Right.
He's just not able to accomplish it super quickly. Now, let's also talk athletic freak, his ability to do what he did. His heel did touch. I do think he was out of bounds with the way the rule is written for his heel. It did touch out of bounds, but when you're talking about for the sake of what you're trying to accomplish with rules, that is absolutely a catch.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, exactly.
for
Common sense
me,
has to
yeah,
creep in at some
exactly.
point.
That's that thing where you get kind of caught up in the element of let's write things by a rule book, but versus what the right thing is. So I think it is the right call. I think it is a bad rule.
Yeah, I don't like it. Bama Brad 1970 is not clear enough. I would say that yeah, it was tough, but I think that when they had the one angle, you could see
There's the
because he had the
overhead.
blue, you had the blue cleats, you could see the just that back part of his heel did come down on the line. So I think that they caught it. If they didn't have that angle, though, whatever, they might not have caught it. But again, 3 drives, 9 points. It could be worse because you could have missed those field goals, but at least they're getting some points. They do get the ball offensively. I know we're not talking about second half yet, but they do get the ball back, and hopefully they can do something with it there. And this game's not over by any stretch of the means. And maybe this is our transition to defense because I've said all I have about offense. I know you may want to talk more, but the defense hasn't played terribly. So what I'm getting at is offense can score here, defense can find a way to stop Russell Wilson, the Seahawks, again, not like they did here in the 2-minute drill. Then maybe there's a chance here. I mean, it's not over by any stretch of the means. It's the route is not on, all those good things.
I'm not sure what any stretch of the means, but we're going to go with the fact that when you talk about the defense, you look at what the offense is doing versus what the defense is. When you look at the two different teams, you look at the Seahawks. That's a team that is capitalizing on their opportunities. They don't have a lot of long drives where they are driving down the field and capitalizing on that. They have big plays, which is what their offense is. The Titans, what I think you've seen is a team that is missing that red zone weapon. When they lost Jonnu Smith, but now you're missing Anthony Firkser in there. So when they get into the red zone, being 0 for 3 to cashing any of those into the end zone has really proven the fact. When you look at it, yes, it's 24-9, but that could easily be 24-21. And so when you look at that, you have to actually look at how this could end up playing out. The Titans are not necessarily playing terrible, but they got to get points coming out here. And when you look at what the defense is doing, the last few drives that they had has been something where they have given up points on big plays. But this is a team that I thought overall, especially for the first quarter and a half, played pretty well on defense. They've given up some big plays. The Seahawks have done a good job of attacking some
identifying
replacement
the replacement players.
Exactly.
McDougal's been terrible. I see it in the chat.
That said,
we're not going to argue with you.
That said, the last drive that the Seahawks had is absolutely coaching malpractice in the sense where you can have the Seahawks who have 1 minute and 9 seconds left and 2 timeouts where you should be thinking, hey, if we play things right, we don't give up a field goal. But instead, what the Titans end up doing is they end up giving up the Seahawks driving the entire way down the field to get a touchdown without even having to use a single timeout.
48 seconds, no timeouts, gets a touchdown. Just that's inexcusable.
Is coaching malpractice.
Yeah, can't do
that is embarrassment. And in no way, shape, or form should anybody feel like that is acceptable. And someone should be having conversations in that locker room. And I know that the Mannings went in and we talked about it on Monday night, how many halftime adjustments you actually able to have. Well, guess what? You better have some adjustments with the fact that a team is able to do that in 1 minute and 9 and not use a single timeout. Now, we're not even talking about college rules. You're talking about a running clock when a team gets first downs and they can walk down the field on you and get a touchdown in 1 minute and 9 seconds with little to no. They weren't even scared to run the ball.
In this room, the announcers, why didn't they take a timeout there? I'm like, it's not going to matter. The way that they've been going, it's not going to matter.
So I thought the defense was fairly good in the first half, but the fact that drive was even allowed to happen
makes it feel like a bad half.
The Titans, here's the thing. You have 1 minute and 9 seconds for a team to drive down the field to try and get points. And the only team that took a timeout was the team on defense to try and stop the momentum of the team on offense from driving right down in your face to get a touchdown. That, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable, and somebody should be asking questions and answering those questions. And at this point, that is so unacceptable that somebody should be losing their job, that is even a possibility. So for me, I think that's something the Titans have to look themselves in the mirror and say, what type of team do you want to be this season? Are you going to be a middle of the road team, or are you going to be a team that allows that to happen?
Sure.
So we're 10 minutes in. Any other things you would like to say to the fact here, Ryan?
Yeah, just to kind of bring this all home, I don't think the defense was overall bad. There were a couple bad plays. McDougal was bad. I thought Fulton getting into Metcalf's business and Jenkins a little bit getting into Metcalf's business was great. You like to see they've essentially taken him out of the game for the most part. Lockett obviously has been a problem on those deep shots. But the defense also, we got 2 sacks on 1 drive. I mean, there's some life of the Titans defense. You just have to shore some of this up. But again, the offensive line has to, or the offense, excuse me, has to respond here and keep them in the game, because I don't think the defense was all that bad. And you take away too a very short field that the Seahawks have to operate on the play action fumble, and this is a different game if even that play is not there. So I mean, it's just there's a lot of things that go either way. This second half could be completely different for the Titans offense, and they've shown some life there too. So some of the adjustments I want to see them make let's start with offenses. I'd actually love to see them, like we talked about last week, spread it out a little bit. And I don't mean just to pass. I mean, run it out of spread. Quit bringing everybody to the party on the inside, especially with your offensive line struggling. Make it easier for them to identify their targets and their run paths. Also, quick game that you saw them get into a little bit, where I know some people call it RPO, but a real quick play action on a converted slant from Julio Jones, and then one to attempt to Julio Jones or AJ Brown later. That kind of stuff. Let's get some quick game going. Let's get some pressure off this offensive line. Let's let them settle into the game. I know that's weird to say in the second half, but you got to do these things to try to help out. And I think that you can attack the Seahawks. And on defense, mostly do what you've been doing. Maybe don't let them drive down the field like that. Tighten up, tighten up. Like loose, tight, right, loosey tight. But I think those kind of things, and you can have a better second half here.
So we're right at time. Ready to send you all off to the second half here. The Titans, this is going to be a big drive that they come out with.
Yes.
This is going to be it's weird to say it in the second week of the season, but this is really a season determining drive that they need to come out with, because ultimately it's not a matter of whether the Titans need to win this game, but it is an attitudinal kind of drive. Do you actually want to get in this and actually compete with the team, or are you just going to roll over?
Right. Exactly.
So with that, check us out. This has been the Halftime Hits with Ryan and Jonathan. You can check Ryan out at Ryan on Broadway. I am Jonathan at JB on Broad. You can check us out every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. live for those of you that wanted to join us at Wild Hair Beer Company in Spring Hill, Tennessee. That is every Tuesday live, assuming they don't have some constructional issues. We want to make sure we have beer for you. So that's the reason we weren't there this last Tuesday. But check us out there. Until then, enjoy the second half, and make sure you check out the post-game show, the roundtable after the game. Thank you, everybody.